Conor McGregor broke his toe and sent the entire UFC 303 fight card into a tailspin. We have a brand new main event, a brand new co-main event, and a card that looks vastly different today than it did just 2 weeks ago. But that doesn't mean we don't have some phenomenal betting opportunities heading into fight weekend. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to walk you through my bets for the UFC 303 fight card. Before we talk about this week, let's talk about last week. I had a phenomenal week. Every single bet that I put on the board won. I hit every single bet that I put on the board. All of the bets that went out came back with even more money. That includes the free ones in this video and the premium ones on the website. One of the most important bets, the safety parlay, also hit, and it continues to be the beacon of stability. The safety parlay is a single parlay that I put up for every event, and it hits at a 70% event rate. If you're new to betting on UFC and new to this space in general, I promise you that is one of the most stable bets on planet Earth. You can unlock the safety parlay now. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's freaking $10 for an entire month, and it's not just the safety parlay. That $10 gets you a whole suite of tools, insight, and information. One of those tools is the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every fighter on every card. There are 2 fights on this card where the line moved pretty spectacularly. We had Cub Swanson open as a favorite, and he is well into underdog territory. And we had Macy Chesson, who I have been very high on, who I said we should bet on, who I said we should be picking, is now currently the favorite. You're also going to get detailed data, metrics, and analytics. This is 38 columns of information that you can use to hop in or out of prop bets. More and more sportsbooks are offering significant strike prop bets, takedown prop bets, and you can use this data, this information, and this insight to hop in or out of those bets as they drop. Every single thing I just mentioned, a bunch of other things I did not mention because these videos get too long, are available right now for $10 an entire month. Not only are you going to get UFC 303, you're going to get UFC Denver, you're going to get an entire month's worth of information. Unlock it all now, WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. Let's take a look at some of my confident favorites and underdogs. We will get to the bets in a second. Before we do, let's talk in some generalities. This card is definitely sketchier than previous pay-per-views, and it is definitely sketchier than previous weeks. There's a lot of fights on this card that in reality can go either direction, even though the odds indicate otherwise. So if we're talking about favorites, people that I'm confident in, and so are the odds, I like Martin Buday. He's fighting a 45-year-old man. And Martin can be very dangerous. He also can be a bit of a pitter-patter striker. I don't think either one of those matter. I think he can outwork Andrei Arlovski. I also think he could potentially finish Andrei Arlovski. I love that guy. I watched him fight live at UFC 55. 19 years ago, I watched Andrei Arlovski fight and defend his belt against Paul Buentello. But 19 years later, he's not the same guy, and I think Martin Buday gets it done. Minus 240, frankly, is a discount. If it was anybody else, if Martin Buday was fighting any other 45-year-old in the world, these odds would be very different. Tsuruya is a UFC newcomer. He came through the road to the UFC tournament. That's a tournament over in Asia where they're trying to get some local talent, build them to the top, and then throw them into the actual UFC and turn them into superstars. That's where Rinya Nakamura came from. He's a minus 500 favorite. This line bounces between 500, 600. I saw it peak at 7, and it's come back down. And I think that's because he only has 9 fights, so people are a little too nervous to put too much money on him. Reality is, this is a tailor-made matchup. I think he absolutely runs through this fight. Great wrestler, good striker, all the tools. I think he dominates here. One of my most confident picks on the card. Obviously, the fact that he's a UFC debut and he's young is concerning, but I think the skills are there. Peyton Talbot, these odds are too far gone. Now, he's on the list because he is one of my most confident. The odds are too far gone. Don't do anything with this. You're not going to bet minus 1,700, minus 1,800 on somebody. You can't do it. This is not the sport to do that. Anything can happen. Like the Lego movie. Anything can happen. Anyway, Peyton Talbot dominates this fight. He wins this fight. Giannis Gamorre's a little bit soft. Peyton should run right through him. He's too athletic, all the things. I am not parlaying a minus 1,700 favorite. The 30 cents that you'll get added to that parlay are not worth the risk that come with a fist fight. And then Diego Lopez. I do have a bet on him, and we'll talk about that in a second. I think this is a changing of the guard. And I fully understand Brian Ortega is as tough as they come. I fully understand that Brian Ortega is not old. He's only 33, but it does feel very much like he's sort of on the tail end of his career. He has taken some beatings, including in his last fight. Brian Ortega was beaten to smithereens in that fight, but he's so tough and he's so durable. He was able to survive. Yair Rodriguez got exhausted, and Brian Ortega took over. Diego Lopez is not Yair Rodriguez. He's certainly not as creative of a striker, but I promise you, he's more well-conditioned. He's much better on the ground, and this kid doesn't give an F. He moves forward, power in his hands, does everything he can to rip your head off and then get that fight out of there. He just knocked out who was supposed to be a far superior striker. I think this is a change in the guard. I think Diego Lopez wins, and I think he has a showcase performance. Let's talk about underdogs. Yuri Prochazka. This is a rematch. Yuri was knocked out the first time they fought. And if you want to challenge that fact, Yuri himself said, I was knocked out. That was not an early stoppage. But he was having some success. He did look pretty good. He connected at times. He was able to move forward. I believe he had a takedown in that fight. Yuri Prochazka had some successes. And Alex Pereira has been very public about the fact that he's got to cut like 20 some odd pounds in a week. He is very heavy right now. He's a big guy to begin with. He was in Australia drinking beer. I don't know if he was drinking beer. I don't want to throw that in the world. But he was in Australia hanging out, having some fun. Not a fight anywhere near the horizon. They called him. He came to save the day yet again. Yuri Prochazka could move forward, turn this into a wrestling match. And while he did get dropped in the last fight, and we all know Alex Pereira is the hardest hitting guy potentially in all of the UFC, Yuri Prochazka is also a savage and can move forward and can win this fight. I don't think he does. I've picked the other side. But if we're talking about solid underdogs that can make something happen, Yuri Prochazka is one of those gentlemen. Michael Venom Page at plus 125. He's fighting Ian Machado Gary. I actually picked Michael Page to win, and I think he can. He is older. He's 36. There's not a lot of time to turn him into a superstar here in the UFC, but he's got all the experience in the world. He's a sport karate fighter that closes distance like nobody you have ever seen before. If you go watch his highlight tape on YouTube, he's blowing people's kneecaps out. He's concaving people's heads. The damage he is doing to his opponents is insane. I think he's broken more limbs and cracked more skulls in a cage than any other single fighter in history, and that's not an exaggeration. He's an insanely dangerous striker who covers ground like nobody has ever seen before. If Ian Gary wants to hang on the outside and be technical, it might be a really tough fight for him. Then we have Jean Silva. He is fighting a fan favorite. He's fighting Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain's a fun, creative striker. Charles Jourdain does rely on big movements, big flying knees, big spinning attacks. He relies on that to keep fights not only entertaining, but also keep fights close and win over the crowd and get in his opponent's head. But Jean Silva does the same thing, and Jean Silva is a much better, much more technical striker who has much more power. I think Jean Silva wins this fight, and I am not surprised if he becomes a favorite come fight night. And then Vinicius Oliveira. Vinicius Oliveira is a dog. His nickname's Lock Dog. He is a dog. And he's fighting Ricky Simón. Ricky Simón can wrestle. Ricky Simón has a little bit of power in his hands. I think Ricky Simón wins this fight, but I also cautioned you in my breakdowns. A pick and a bet are not the same thing. I picked Ricky Simón to win, but I am nervous. I do understand the guy is on a 2-fight losing streak. He may not be the same person that he was. And Vinicius Oliveira is not a guy that just accepts a loss. He was losing his last fight. He certainly was not dominating it. And then the third round comes around, flying knee up into the cage, takes that dude completely out of consciousness and wins that fight. He's never out of a fight. He never gives up on himself. He doesn't quit. He could be a very solid underdog here as well. Let's take a look at my actual bets. I don't have a ton of money going because I mentioned this is a bit of a sketchy card. And this is not about the volume of bets. Anybody can bet on 29 fights with crazy odds and hope it works out. This is about finding the right spots and making something happen. I mentioned the Diego Lopez bet. I mentioned everything there. I think he gets it done. I got him at minus 150. You can get a little bit of a discount now. He's only minus 140. I have a feeling that after weigh-ins, that will widen. According to Instagram, at least, Diego Lopez is in phenomenal shape. Meanwhile, Brian Ortega was preparing to fight at 155 pounds in September. He literally said, I took this fight just for the money, and I think that will be reflected in the cage. I talked about 45-year-old Andrei Arlovski and the legend that he was, but the man he is today is not the same person. I do think this fight can be ended inside the distance. I think Martin Buday can get it done. He has 10 stoppage wins. He is a finisher. I have a quarter of a unit, nothing crazy, but a quarter of a unit on the under 2.5 rounds at plus 155. The reason I did under 2.5 at plus 155 and not Martin Buday by finish is those odds at the time were relatively the same. And it's not the craziest thing on planet Earth if heavyweight Andrei Arlovski can make something happen against Martin Buday. Then I have a over round parlay. I took the over 2.5 on Macy Chiasson and Myra Buena Silva, and I parlayed that with the over 2.5 on Ian Gary and Michael Venom Page. I think Macy Chiasson and Myra Buena Silva is going to be the most boring fight we've ever seen. And styles make fights, and the style here is going to be Macy leaning on Myra Buena Silva, holding her against the cage, keeping her there, taking her down. The last two people that had success against Myra Buena Silva, that's exactly what they did. She lost the title. Well, she didn't have the title to lose, but she did not win the title in her last fight from cage control. And Holly Holm beat her in the first round with cage control before that ninja choke. Macy Chiasson is massive, should be able to lean, stretch, and keep Myra Buena Silva at distance. And then Ian Gary and Michael Venom Page, this is what could blow up this parlay because one of these gentlemen can get knocked out or it's a staring contest. These are two very high-level technical strikers. It could quite literally be a staring contest. Nobody wants to cover that ground. Nobody wants to fully engage. Neither one of them are brawlers. They're technical strikers. Ian Gary can be a bit chinny, so I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Venom Page hits him with that same elbow that he hit Kevin Holland with. He's out. He's done. Good night. Michael Venom Page is also 36 years old. So that leg of the parlay, not the most confident in the world, but I do think this is closer to a staring contest than it is an all-out war. Then I have a Roman Dolidze bet. This is the most consistent Roman Dolidze bet on planet Earth. I've placed this bet on every single Roman Dolidze fight. It is a win inside the distance, decision, no action bet. What that essentially means is if Roman Dolidze finishes Anthony Smith, I'll get paid. I'll get paid out at minus 150. If Roman Dolidze loses a decision, hell, if he even wins a decision, I get a full refund. That bet never happened. The only way I lose my money is if Roman Dolidze gets finished, and that is not a man that is easily finished. I have all confidence that at the very least, worst case scenario, I'll get a refund on this bet, and I will not lose. I got it at minus 150. Jacob got it at a little bit better odds. I don't know what it looks like today, but I do think it's like minus 170, minus 180. And while that seems far, the reality is that Roman Dolidze is insanely durable and insanely dangerous. And these belts, the win inside the distance decision no action bets, are built just for that. Without question, anytime I place one of these bets, I get comments, I get emails, we get messages. Where do I find it? How do I play it? I don't see it. We use BetOnline. BetOnline has the earliest prop bets by far. And it is literally called win inside the distance decision no action with BetOnline. If you're using DraftKings or FanDuel, they call it finish only. So just keep an eye out. Look for those bets. They're great bets in these situations when you have a durable person that is very, very dangerous. I do have bets for the next event. Big Ange, Big Papa Bo. I'm always a couple weeks ahead. So there are bets right now for premium members for UFC Denver. And there are more coming because that card is a very easy, at least in my opinion, card to bet on. And then, of course, I have the safety parlay for this event. It is minus 149. Safe is the key word. Hitting at a 70% win rate is the key word. You can unlock the safety parlay, the UFC Denver bets. Every other bet that I'm going to place, I am filming this on Tuesday, because I am in Las Vegas the rest of this week, so I'm filming this early. You're not going to be watching this video till a little later. So there are likely more bets up and ready to go for premium members. You can unlock all of that right now. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. Here's a little sneak peek at Jakey Boy's bets. Jacob already, it is only Tuesday, already has 9.7 units out the door. There are more bets incoming for Jakey Boy. He's got Vinicius Oliveira money line at plus 180. He has that Roman Dolidze win inside the distance decision no action bet that we just talked about, and he got it at minus 135. He tipped me to it. It took me 30 minutes, 20 minutes to get to that bet, and I had already lost some of those odds. That's why being here, linking your Discord, getting the alerts, doing all that stuff is wildly important. Outside of those two bets, he has another 8.2 units on the board ready for you to unlock. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become. It's freaking $10. One of these days, I'm going to make a slide of all the crap that costs $10 that we waste money on every day. You can't get a McDonald's combo meal for $10. $10, everything you could ever want or need for an entire month. And here's a quick look at BetOpenly. If you don't know what BetOpenly is, on that very first slide, those phenomenal odds you saw on the side, those are BetOpenly's odds. They're not a sports book. It's peer-to-peer betting, human to human. If you bet me and I lose, you take my actual money and put it in your pocket. If you lose, I take your actual money. It's not you versus the sports book. It's you versus some young man, some gentleman, some degenerate, somebody else on the other side of that screen. You can check them out. WeWantPicks.com/BetOpenly or just go to BetOpenly.com. Right now, you can try to take Jacob's money with the anti-lock of the week bet. You bet on Ricky Simone, you're taking Jakey Boy's money. The anti-safety parlay, if anybody in the safety parlay loses, you take my money. Check them out. WeWantPicks.com/BetOpenly. And finally, if you want $50, I will send you $50. The only thing you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. You're going to sign up. They're going to pay me. I'm going to slice off some of that money and give it right back to you. Guys, good luck this weekend. If you see us in Vegas, come say hi, and I'll buy you a drink.